Hello and good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, the Board of Public Utilities, and the Economic Development Authority, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend our final RGGI Strategic Funding Plan stakeholder meeting. This meeting will focus on building decarbonization and ratepayer relief. My name is Helene Barr, and I have the pleasure of being your moderator for the next hour and a half. A little bit of background on myself. I am the Assistant Director of Climate Change, Clean Energy, and Sustainability at the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. And in my role, I oversee a team of awesome folks who are dedicated to helping the state achieve its greenhouse gas reduction goals. And in particular, one of our most important tasks is to manage New Jersey's participation in the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. Today, you're going to hear a lot about the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which we often refer to as RGGI. At this webinar, you're going to hear about the state's current investment of our auction proceeds in climate, clean energy, and equity projects, and also learn about how the state could prioritize funding for building decarbonization and ratepayer relief for future investments for the years 2026 through 2028. A few housekeeping items before we get to the agenda. This meeting is being recorded, and by attending this meeting, you consent to being recorded. A recording of this webinar will be made available on our website, and we will share a link to the webinar after the event is completed. We welcome you to revisit the content yourself and to share with any of your community members or colleagues. At this point, all 3 previous webinars are now linked on our webpage as well, so you can visit those at any time. All online participants are currently muted, and during our facilitated public comment session, we will discuss how to express your comments. But in the meantime, you can drop comments in at any time in our chat box. Though we are asking folks to be respectful in the chat and to keep our comments on topic to ensure that we're getting the most meaningful feedback on the next funding plan. And if you choose to speak during the comment period, please be courteous of other participants and allow time for others to provide comment. So on to our agenda. First up, you're going to hear from Veronique Oman, who is the Director of the Clean Energy Program at the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities. She's going to provide an introductory welcome. Next, you're going to hear from Anthony Bawakwa, who is the Bureau Chief of Climate Change, Clean Energy here at the department. He's going to provide an overview of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative and New Jersey's process for developing a strategic funding plan. And following this, you will hear from representatives from the Economic Development Authority and the Board of Public Utilities, who are going to go into greater detail about the 2 initiatives that could be receiving funding under the 2026 plan. For each initiative, they're going to discuss the sources of the greenhouse gas emissions associated with implementing that initiative, the policy landscape for that initiative, with a focus on any existing programs or incentives, and how additional funding could help to support them. Finally, we're going to end this webinar with an opportunity for all of you to voice your comments about the proposed initiatives. These comments will be utilized in developing our final strategic funding plan, which is slated to be released later this fall. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Director Oman.
Thank you, Helene. And my name is Veronique Oman, and I am, as Helene said, the Director of the Division of Clean Energy at the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities. So what does the board do? Well, the mission is to ensure that safe, adequate, and proper utility service are provided at reasonable, non-discriminatory rates to all members of the public who desire such services. And what it does is to regulate a competitive, economically cost-effective energy policy that promotes responsible growth and clean renewable energy sources while maintaining a high quality of life in New Jersey. Now, that's a whole lot, obviously. And so the board regulates all the utilities in the state, including gas, electricity, water, and broadband. And in that role, it also does things like ensuring that the renewable portfolio standards specified by the legislature in New Jersey are being met through the procurement of renewable energy sources such as solar and offshore wind. There are other programs that we oversee, such as the electric vehicle incentive program in cooperation with the Department of Environmental Protection, the energy efficiency and building decarbonization programs. So we do quite a lot to promote this clean renewable energy and decarbonized future of New Jersey. And as such, we are also one of the participating agencies in RGGI that oversees the allocation of funding to these objectives. And with that, I will give the floor to Anthony Bevacqua, who will talk you through Initiative 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronique, and thanks, Helene. And of course, thanks for everyone tuning in this afternoon. Next slide, please. Thanks. So I'm Anthony Bevacqua, the Bureau Chief of the Climate and Clean Energy Bureau here at NJDEP. The Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, or RGGI, is a market-based carbon dioxide emissions trading system, commonly referred to as a cap and invest program. This regional program is a cooperative effort among several states with a common objective to drive down carbon dioxide emissions in the power sector. RGGI as a whole is made up of individual state-respective CO2 budget trading programs based on the common RGGI model rule that undergoes iterative updates over time. Each participating state adopts their own version of this rule based on their specific legislative and rule adoption requirements. What makes this program unique, other than being the first of its kind in the US when it was launched in 2009, is that it leverages state-level regulation collaboratively to create a robust regional market for emissions trading and investment. This spans multiple state, energy system, and regional economic territories. Regulated entities are subject to compliance regulations based on the state they are located within. For example, electricity generators that qualify under this program operating in New Jersey are required to confirm their allowance holdings with the department based on the tons of carbon dioxide they emit over a compliance period. Allowances are sold in regional quarterly auctions. These allowances are originated by participating states, and in turn, states receive the proceeds from the sale of these allowances. Each participating state invests their proceeds as determined by state-specific programs centered around reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The regional cap of available allowances is based on the emissions contributions across all participating states and declines over time. This decline, along with market mechanisms, supply and demand, and other drivers, send price signals to generators in the energy market with the objective of reducing fossil-fired generation over time. In turn, states invest the proceeds from allowance sales into programs and initiatives that further reduce greenhouse gas emissions while benefiting stakeholders and communities. Here in New Jersey, the Global Warming Solutions Fund Act, passed in 2008, established New Jersey's CO2 budget trading rule and determined how New Jersey's auction proceeds are allocated across agencies. These agencies and their respective funding lanes include 60% of proceeds to the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, focusing on commercial, institutional, and industrial entities, 20% to the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, targeting energy cost savings, and 20% to the Department of Environmental Protection, split evenly between programs that fund local government and forest and tidal marsh stewardship and restoration. In short, the strategic funding plan bridges the gap between agencies receiving proceeds and the establishment of strategic funding initiatives and subsequent on-the-ground programs that optimize the use of New Jersey's RGGI monies. The strategic funding plan sets the state's priorities for the investments and is jointly developed by EDA, BPU, and DEP every 3 years. Leveraging interagency coordination and common objectives, the strategic funding plan identifies initiatives that will be funded by RGGI proceeds to support meeting the state's climate mitigation, clean energy, environmental justice, and economic development goals. An initiative is a funding strategy to advance one or more of the objectives identified in the Global Warming Solutions Fund rule. The plan also ranks the importance of each objective for each funding initiative and summarizes the results achieved from previous funding investments. To ensure sufficient stakeholder engagement is conducted, the agencies are required to hold 4 public meetings prior to the release of the plan. As directed by the New Jersey Global Warming Solutions Fund rule and Governor Murphy's Executive Order Number 7, the strategic funding plan objectives include the following: a net reduction in greenhouse gas emissions or net sequestration of carbon, significant reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, reduction of ratepayer impact, and a significant contribution to the achievement of the state's 2050 Global Warming Solutions Act limits. Reduction in energy use. Be directly responsive to the recommendations submitted by the department to the legislature pursuant to the Global Warming Response Act. Provide co-benefits. And be directly responsive to the negative effects on human health and the environment in communities that are disproportionately impacted by the effects of environmental degradation and climate change. Upon New Jersey re-entering the regional RGGI program, the initial strategic funding plan for years 2020 through 2022 included the following 4 initiatives: catalyze clean, equitable transportation, promote blue carbon in coastal habitats, enhance forests and urban forests, create the New Jersey Green Bank. The second iteration of the strategic funding plan was launched in July of 2023 and included the following initiatives: accelerate healthy homes and building decarbonization, catalyze clean, equitable transportation, promote blue carbon in coastal habitats, strengthen New Jersey's forests. As of earlier this month, the New Jersey RGGI program has raised over $976 million since rejoining the initiative in 2020. Following the initiatives described earlier to date, these 3 agencies have dedicated more than $236 million of proceeds that have been received by projects that will mitigate climate change. BPU has also dedicated approximately $125 million to ratepayer relief. Furthermore, agencies have committed a pipeline of more than $293 million in additional RGGI funds that are anticipated to support a variety of projects across initiatives in the current strategic funding plan, bringing the total of New Jersey's RGGI investments to date to more than $650 million, roughly 70% of proceeds generated. This has resulted in 398 funded projects, which include 912 electric vehicles that were incentivized, 24,000 trees which were planted, 56 acres of forests that were restored, and 155 acres of wetlands that were restored. With a bottom line of over 742,000 metric tons of CO2 equivalent avoided. This data, along with other supporting information, is made available on our RGGI website and climate investment dashboard linked in this presentation. Thanks. Now that we have covered some background, I'm excited to introduce the initiatives being proposed in the new strategic funding plan scoping document for years 2026 through 2028. The table on your screen illustrates these initiatives and indicates the agency sponsors who will provide a brief overview in today's webinar. Agencies are proposing to continue to fund 5 initiatives that were included in previous strategic funding plans, and also have proposed 4 new funding initiatives. The continued initiatives include catalyze clean, equitable transportation, accelerate healthy homes and building decarbonization, promote blue carbon in tidal wetlands, strengthen New Jersey's forests, and sustain and grow the New Jersey Green Bank. The new initiatives include supplement ratepayer relief, expand clean energy generation, transmission, storage, and grid resilience, mobilize clean manufacturing and industry, and finally, enhance the clean energy supply chain, workforce, and technology development. With that, allow me to introduce Sean of EDA. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate going over the background there for everyone. On behalf of the Economic Development Authority, I want to greatly thank you again all for joining today. Whether you just joined for today's meeting or if you've been a part of the previous stakeholder webinars that we've been holding for RGGI, we really do value your feedback and questions and comments as we help shape the funding plan to serve the best interests of New Jersey and really reflect your priorities for putting this funding to work. My name is Sean Sonneman. I'm the manager of the Clean Energy team at the Economic Development Authority. And today I'm going to dive into Initiative 2, Accelerate Healthy Homes and Building Decarbonization. As Anthony highlighted, this is an initiative that was in the currently active funding plan from 2023 to 2025. And we are excited to bring this back for the next iteration of the funding plan, as we feel it tackles an important aspect of greenhouse gas emissions in the state, but also as a great opportunity for economic development activity right here in New Jersey. Next slide. As mentioned, buildings are a significant factor for the greenhouse gas emissions inventory in the state. Together, the residential and commercial building sector accounts for about 1/4 of the overall greenhouse gas emissions in the state. And these emissions primarily come from the on-site combustion of fossil fuels for heating our buildings and using hot water and other domestic applications such as cooking and appliance operation. So as we look to tackle the full sources of greenhouse gas emissions in the state, the building sector overall is a critical piece of that puzzle as we work to reduce our emissions overall in the state. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, this initiative was in the prior strategic funding plan that is currently ongoing, and we're looking to bring this back for the next iteration of the plan. And here at the Authority, we've had several programs and efforts within our clean energy department to put program dollars to work to lower emissions from our building sector. RGGI funded wise, this was been primarily through our NJ Cool program, which is a grant-based program that awards funding to commercial, industrial, and institutional buildings that are taking on retrofit construction projects. So we're rehabbing and putting additional resources in to renovate existing buildings in the state. These buildings primarily do this through switching their heating load to electric, zero combustion-based systems, or replacing cooling refrigerants in existing refrigeration components for air conditioning and other cooling applications in the building. We'll go into a little more detail in the following slides about what that all means, especially for some of our participants who may not be familiar with this terminology, and if building decarbonization overall is a complex subject that you may not be familiar with. So this funding started out with $15 million of RGGI funding to be put to work, and we have an additional $15 million of reserve funding should that initial allocation be fully subscribed. We'll go into a little more detail at NJ Cool. But we've also had several other programs that support building decarbonization efforts in the state and reducing overall sectors from our existing and proposed buildings. A second program is our Garden State CPACE program, which stands for Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy. And if you were on the webinar yesterday, we talked a little bit about this program. This is a unique financing structure that allows for buildings to finance capital improvements for a wide variety of commercial buildings and larger residential buildings to make energy efficiency and even resiliency improvements that lower the emissions from buildings, lower their operating costs to building owners and occupants, and improve the overall performance of buildings for strengthening our buildings in the long term. Interestingly, this CPACE program is relatively new to New Jersey over the last few months as we've gotten this program fully launched, but it is a structure that has been used in other states around the country. And the unique financing component here is that private capital is being used for these types of projects for both retrofit and new construction. And the loan itself is paid back via an assessment on the property, similar as you might have other assessments on a property tax bill for sewer services or other special assessments that are common in the development world. We're really excited as this program gets up and running, and if you are interested in learning more, we definitely encourage you to check out our website and reach out to the team to discuss further how you can potentially use this product for needs for your building. The second program I'll touch on briefly is our NJ CELS or Clean Energy Loans program. Again, this is not currently funded with RGGI dollars, but just gives you some color on how the authority overall is working to tackle emissions from our building sector in the state amid our broader push for clean energy improvements. Clean energy loans, we also touched on in yesterday's webinar, if you joined us, is a co-lending program where the authority can provide loans at a discounted interest rate, lend alongside private capital from outside lenders in the market. And this can be used for clean energy companies in the state, as well as clean energy projects, especially those around building decarbonization that look to reduce operating emissions from buildings and improve their overall energy performance. So that's one grant and two loan opportunities that are actively and currently available today. And we're excited to include this initiative in the next strategic funding plan to add more additional funding and improve the overall toolkit of resources that we have in the state to tackle the building sector. Next slide, please. So let's dive a little bit more into some of the technologies we're talking around here, especially that building decarbonization term, can be a little intimidating if you're not familiar with it. So when we talk about fuel switching, it means switching over from fossil fuel-based systems to cleaner electric-based sources that do not have any on-site production of greenhouse gases or on-site production of co-pollutants. In most cases, this is going to be switching from fossil fuel-based systems such as furnaces or natural gas powered boilers. In some of the older buildings, there may even be delivered heating oil and similar applications, to newer technologies such as heat pumps, be there heat pumps that are pulling the energy from the ground, as shown in the diagram here, through geothermal systems, as well as air source and other similar technologies. Now, it's important to note that we're not just talking about switching here in terms of a one-to-one replacement. Our inherent efficiencies in these newer technologies that utilize less energy overall and are more efficient in creating heat and cooling for our buildings. So often when a project is done correctly, you are not only replacing the type of fuel or type of energy that you're using to keep your building comfortable for its occupants, you're also using less energy overall as these new systems are inherently more efficient and often can be downsized compared to existing equipment that is currently in place, especially if that equipment is of older technology and getting close to its age of retirement. So we see benefits here, again, of reducing our fossil fuel usage, reducing those emissions and co-pollutants that come with using these resources, as well as increased energy efficiency overall for our buildings in reducing overall energy consumption. Next slide, please. On the other side of the equation here, when we talk about refrigerant replacement, we're specifically looking at what are called high global warming potential refrigerants. Long name, but in short, when we have these chemical compounds and other components of our cooling system, they can leak out over time and do significant damage to our global warming impacts, often several magnitudes times more than carbon dioxide emissions in the atmosphere. And these are refrigerants that are used in both air conditioning systems for keeping our building spaces comfortable for occupants, as well as more heavier duty applications of refrigeration, such as cold storage and freezers and other applications. If you've ever worked on your automobile and you've had to charge or replace the Freon in your car's air conditioning system, that is the type of refrigerant that we're talking about here. So in short, what we're looking to do when we are talking about refrigerants is encouraging the replacement of older cooling systems that use these high global warming potential refrigerants that can be incredibly damaging to the atmosphere as they are utilized over time and leak out and have these environmental impacts with, again, more efficient and more environmentally friendly and sustainable options that are becoming available on the market. Next slide, please. Now, it's important to note that when we talk about building decarbonization, as I mentioned, it's not just making that one-to-one replacement, but we need to go the step further in driving down the overall energy consumption and usage of our buildings. And while there's inherent efficiencies in these newer technologies in the overall energy demand on the system, we also encourage projects and applicants, especially through the NJ Cool program, to layer into this base scope or these basic HVAC replacement work with other improvements on the building that can both reduce on-site operating emissions and reduce overall energy demand for electricity and other resources. These can include improving the insulation of your building and what's called the building envelope, be that windows, doors, or the actual insulation material on our building walls, so that we're not leaking out cold air or hot air, depending on the season, to the outside environment and keeping our buildings comfortable and performing at a high efficiency rate. Similarly, we can have smarter energy load control systems and building controls that can be responsive to sensors and other dynamics in building occupancy usage. And again, only use energy in our buildings when it's needed. Thinking about if you've ever gone through a building and there's motion sensors and other devices that pick up when rooms are being occupied. So we're not leaving the lights on or cooling a space if no one's going to be in there and wasting that energy that otherwise can be used elsewhere in our society and on the grid. In addition to that, we have lighting upgrades and, in the best case scenario, making clean power and storing clean power on site, often through the case of on-site solar panels and accompanying battery storage. And in more sophisticated building technologies, there's other energy recovery strategies that can capture some of the excess weight or excess cooling and heating within a building and kind of recycle that energy to be put to work within a building. Here at the Authority, we're also looking at other emergent technologies and other development type projects. One example being thermal energy networks. And these are ideas that buildings are sharing and utilizing heat as a resource between actually adjacent buildings within either an enclosed campus or potentially even adjacent buildings down the street. And so this is an area that New Jersey state government across all the agencies are looking at as a great opportunity to kind of take building decarbonization to the next level and really, again, maximize the efficiency of our energy resources here in the state. What we see with that is we get, again, as you've probably seen as a through line throughout all the webinars for the RGGI stakeholdering process, we're having environmental benefits, seeing operational performances for our buildings, technologies, and vehicles, and at the end of the day, saving dollars in the residents and businesses that work in the state. Next slide, please. So to give you an example of how the NJ Cool program has put this funding to work, we spotlighted here a project in Edison that received $1 million in NJ Cool funding and completed several improvements on the building. They replaced an existing natural gas-fired rooftop HVAC unit with an efficient electric unit, as well as upgraded 5 existing rooftop units that were already electric with more efficient models. In addition, the building owners installed new system controls that helped to optimize energy usage for the building, again, being responsive to the needs and demands of the building to use only energy where it is most applicable and most beneficial to the building occupants. With this project, we can see several of the environmental benefits on the right-hand side of the screen, reducing the amount of natural gas consumption in the building, and therefore saving significant metric tons of CO2 equivalent over the lifetime of the project. In addition, we removed over 1,000 pounds of that high global warming potential refrigerant that was used in the cooling system, and also included a fair number of hours of prevailing wage labor and putting construction workers busy and getting paid in the state with these kind of projects as they retrofit existing buildings. And that's one of the benefits we see of utilizing funding and investments in building decarbonization projects and other energy efficiency improvements, is that these are projects that have to be done on site in the state with local labor resources. So it's one of the great economic development benefits that the authority sees from doing this kind of work is creating good paying jobs that are right here in New Jersey and allowing people to work hard to improve not just the performance of our buildings, but also the environmental impact for local communities that are on and around these properties. Next slide. So through our NJ Cool program to date, we've already awarded 15 projects and committed over $7 million in funding. And we're seeing new applications come in on a weekly basis towards this program. So that number is already growing continually, even as probably since these slides have been put together. With that, we've projected an avoidance of 27,000 plus metric tons of carbon dioxide, seeing direct environmental benefits from this funding being deployed, as well as the operational savings and improved efficiency for the building owners and occupants who are seeing this funded being put to work in their own buildings. Next slide. So with Initiative 2 and this strategic funding plan, we're looking at a few opportunities and options that we can have funding be additionally put to work in the state here for the authority. One would be continuing funding for the NJ Cool program, seeing as we've had a success with that model, but also looking at additional programs that can support even larger buildings or some of those multi-building campus-style retrofit projects that I alluded to earlier. In addition, we're considering further funding for retrofitting multifamily buildings, especially those that may not be covered well by other state programs, such as corporate and cooperatively owned buildings, senior housing, and other public housing, especially those populations that are most impacted by ongoing climate change and rising temperatures, et cetera, and seeing the impacts to their public health. And finally, we also look at encouraging zero energy new construction buildings, as it's important to not only improve the existing buildings that are already in place in the state, but also utilize funding for encouraging that our new buildings being constructed are up to the best performance possible, ensuring that these investments that are going to be in the long term are locking in technology that is best for our environment and again, best for overall efficiency of energy use and frankly, bottom line for building owners. So we're really excited as we look to incorporate this initiative into strategic funding plan and welcome your feedback on any of these opportunities or other things that you think should be included within this initiative or the other initiatives that the authority has sponsored broadly. Again, I thank you all for your time. And with that, I'll turn it over to my esteemed colleague at the Board of Public Utilities, John Gordon, to talk about how BPU is looking to incorporate Initiative 2 in their work.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. It's been a few of these great webinars. So Initiative 2, Accelerating Healthy Homes and Buildings, Decarbonization is great work. BPU is extremely dedicated to and spend a lot of our time and effort bringing energy efficiency to our grid. Next slide. So non-RGGI programs, as I just mentioned, the Whole House Pilot Program, which we piloted a number of years ago, to reduce barriers to comfort partners. The new construction program has been really well adapting. Many new projects are coming online, and instead of trying to renovate older projects, we're getting ahead of the curve there. The appliance rebates and recycling, Train 2 building decarbonization and demand response programs. We're actually in the process of working on Train 3. So if you get a chance, please participate in that process as well. The higher education decarbonization program has been pretty successful. The energy efficiency products that we have vary depending on a number of programs, specifically, for example, the multifamily program. Whole home energy assessment and solutions. Again, a lot of these programs are run through the utilities in T2. So if you want to learn more, please reach out to the BPU or to your utility. Local government energy audits. This is a great way for government agencies and organizations to identify where their energy usage really is occurring and to be able to take action. My office, the Office of Clean Energy Equity, specifically runs a program called Community Energy Plans and Implementation Grants. This is where communities can adapt the state's energy master plan locally, identify opportunities for them to increase local clean energy generation as well as storage, and also find efficiencies in communication about our bill assistance programs. Implementation grants are unique that after you do an energy plan, you're able to participate in our implementation grant project. So say if you decided you have a park, for example, and you want to put chargers at it, that would be an example of an implementation grant. Energy savings improvement grant program, large energy users program is also really impressive as well. Next slide. For the new funding that could be dedicated to projects and programs that support programs such as commercial scale geothermal demonstration projects or pilots, programs that qualified customers using existing energy efficiency programs to implement decarbonization efforts such as heat pumps or other programs seeking to implement community energy plans, climate mitigation plans, or other similar plans as such. Achieve energy efficiency through programs such as those seeking to implement community energy plans, climate mitigation plans, or other similar plans, those looking to address urban heat islands, and those aimed to encouraging energy efficiency and decarbonization measures to income qualified customers, as well as providing opportunities for rate relief for income qualified customers during the clean energy transition, such as supporting implementation of programs that reduce overall energy costs to customers utilizing heat pumps. Next slide. Again, all these are critical. We believe at the BPU and as well as our other colleagues that we want to make sure that the energy transition is as affordable as possible and that we're advancing everything at lightning speed and so forth. We can continue. All right, so supplemental ratepayer relief. Next slide. So this is pretty simple. This is one of the most impactful things, or the largest amount of money that we spent with our funds for BPU is direct bill assistance and enhance award levels under the Universal Service Fund utility assistance programs administered by the Department of Community Affairs, DCA for short, that applies monthly credits to low and moderate income households. So again, there's a lot of things that take a lot of time with building an energy transition. Direct bill assistance is a fast way for us to ensure that we're bringing relief to our for those that need it, and looking forward to seeing comments here. Next slide. Again, this is extremely important for providing co-benefits. The direct co-benefit of being able to see the direct relief is, it's instant. People are able to feel the impacts on their bills being reduced as fast as possible. So, next slide. Okay, So I guess we're going to jump to the facilitated public comment session. And again, thank you from the BPU for everyone's participation in this process, and we look forward to your comments.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Sean, for providing the overview of those two funding initiatives. So we would now like to pivot to hear from all of you, our webinar attendees. If you would like to voice a comment, please use the raise hand button, and then you will be added to the queue to speak. It looks like a little hand at the top of your screen, so please use that. And it's a little bit confusing. So once you raise your hand, we will enable your microphone, and then we're going to ask you to unmute yourself. So once your microphone is enabled, you should be able to click on it and unmute yourself to be able to voice your comment. As always, if you'd rather not vocalize your comment, you can also add a comment in our chat. We will be recording all of the comments received today and compiled with the comments received through other channels. And all of this information is going to be used to inform the initiatives and our final strategic funding plan. So, again, just want to emphasize that your voice is really important in this. We want to hear from you what our priorities should be to help inform that plan. We can't take action on climate without all of you wanting to take action. So, and with that, I'll just say that our comment period closes on September 22nd. So if you don't want to talk today, you can always provide comment at a later date. All right, so I'm going to look at our attendees, and it looks like Stephen is the first person with hands up. So Stephen, you can unmute yourself and provide your comment.
Thank you. Appreciate this opportunity. Appreciate these sessions. I just wanted to mention that NORA, which is the National Oil Heat Research Alliance, has done some great work in several of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states on net zero houses. And they reached the net zero by a combination of biomass-based diesel, bioheat, and as we know, heating oil does not have to be fossil-based, and solar units. And I just ask that it may be an avenue, it probably should be an avenue that you might want to pursue. We know that the heating sector is not easy to decarbonize fully. That's going to be a lengthy transition. It's a laudable goal, but it's not going to happen in the near future. And the most important ton of carbon we reduce or eliminate is the one we do today. So as a transition, I'd ask that the department look into some of the research that NORA has been doing with incredible results that have proven to be successful in reaching the net zero goal for houses. So I just wanted to offer those comments, and thank you again.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. And feel free to email us at njregi@dep.nj.gov with any resources you'd like us to take a look at. We'd be more than happy to do that. Like I like to say, all the options have to kind of remain on the table for us to achieve these gas reduction goals. All right. So it looks like the next person with their hand up is Sean. So Sean, you can unmute yourself now. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. Can you hear me?
Yep, sure can.
Okay, great. Another great program today. Thanks to everyone at DP, EDA, and BPU. My question, I don't want to put anybody on the spot. Feel free not to give an answer, but just take it away and think about it. So we're all aware of all the ongoing, the rate spike with our utility bills and the huge role that data centers are playing. And we've also heard Tim and the governor bragging about New Jersey leading the nation in AI growth and, it being a real big industry here in our state moving forward. And so just trying to reconcile both these things in my head. Sean had mentioned, TENS in his presentation. And so I know this is kind of, Reggie tangential, but would love to see rules in place ensuring that, data centers, particularly new data centers, but even, older data centers are somehow, it's mandatory that they participate in these thermal energy networks going forward. Mm-hmm. Again, I know it might be a little challenging for you guys to respond to that, but I just wanted to air that.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for that comment. Yeah, I know there's definitely legislation that's being considered around the energy needs of data centers and how to make sure that all of us ratepayers aren't paying for that through these capacity auctions. So I think you will definitely take that into consideration and discuss amongst ourselves. So appreciate your comment today. All right, it looks like Eric has his hand up next. Eric, feel free to unmute yourself and provide a comment. And again, to unmute yourself, Eric, you just have to hit the microphone icon at the top of your screen. I believe it should be at the top. Same problem as the other day. All right, Eric, do you leave and come back in? Maybe that can help. Yep. Okay. In the meantime, if anybody else would like to raise their hand and provide a comment, well, Eric. All right, thank you for flipping to the next slide. Looks just as a refresher what our initiatives are, and the ones that are asterisked are the ones that we were discussing today, and some questions in the event that can help get some folks thinking. Oh, looks like Richard's hand is up if we want to enable Richard's mic. All right, Richard, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
You should be hearing me now.
Sure can. Thank you.
Okay. At one of the other webinars, the first one actually, a lady mentioned the use of two-stroke engines, landscaping equipment. Two-stroke engines is basically all the equipment that landscapers are using. They are extreme carbon producers. They've been identified as way worse than cars, for example, which are a four-stroke, which is less emissions by itself, by its nature. So what I'm getting to is it possible to include looking at a rebate program of some sort to incentivize the landscaping companies to move to electric, basically. Some townships I've noticed recently are banning leaf blowers, for example. A lot of it is the noise aspect, certainly, but at the same time, we're talking carbon reduction right there, just for that one type of equipment. Overall, it would be a great buyback to get this, carbon, producing inefficient equipment, off the street, so to speak. Now, the main cost of switching to electric, which I've already done on my own little scale here at home, is the cost of batteries. So, and the length that the batteries work. Now, the newer technology, the batteries are lasting longer and longer. But it's the same time, it's almost like the comparison of buying a color printer and then paying a fortune for each time you replace the color cartridges. That basically you could get the printer almost for free. It's very similar in electric tools. Yeah, you'll see that if you get a package, the batteries it could be even more than half the value, or half the the buyback of going to electric right there. So again, that's something that I think should be definitely looked at. And regarding retrofitting buildings, the existing buildings to more efficient, less carbon producing equipment, and there was mention of the type of gas that's used, Freon or whatever gas type of gas that they're using in cooling systems. To that, I'm wondering, or my question is the length of the equipment, the life expectancy of the equipment, is that formulated in? In other words, you take the cost of the equipment, let's say it's $1 million, and its lifespan is going to be 30 years. So you take a look at that, you come up with that number by dividing that cost of that equipment over the 30-year span, you get your yearly cost of that equipment. But you also then have the cost of the labor to put it in at prevailing wage. It's great creating jobs at prevailing wage, especially. But you need to, or at some point, are all of these costs factored in to see if, you know, what the buyback is on it, you know, because, for example, you could do a 30-year bond. I'm going to go into a different type of financing here, you know, on a township budget level. Let's say you go into a 30-year bond, and one of the things you're bonding out is striping the parking lot. Well, you're not getting a buyback there. You know, the loan is going to last longer than the equipment. The cost of the equipment is going to, you know, override the buyback that you're getting. And that's something that I'm wondering if that's being looked at, especially considering on a personal level right here in my home, I'm replacing the LED bulbs, for example. I put on the date that I installed them on the bulbs, and I'm replacing this. It's supposed to be, so beneficial energy saving LED bulbs. I'm replacing them in looks like 2 years. So now I'm looking at the cost of that bulb, how much, for over a 2-year time, what it's saving me. And it is saving me a lot of wattage for these bulbs. But then when you factor it in, am I ahead? Now, I understand the main goal here is carbon reduction. 100%. I'm a green guy, environmental committee guy, which is why I'm on all your webinars. But at the same time, my feet are on the ground and my budget is only so much, especially in retirement. So being in retirement, I'm really, really looking at the numbers. And my point here is that I hope that this program is focusing on the numbers to the level that I'm talking about right now. So those are my comments. So I was also wondering, do I need to put these comments in writing by the due date that you're closing this, this
No,
public
we're
portion?
taking notes, and this is all recorded. So everything you
That's great.
speak to us will be
Yeah.
part of the comments collected. But,
Well, that's-
for folks that are more shy and maybe don't want to come and unmute themselves and talk, there are other ways to provide comment, and all of that gets synthesized, shared out to all of the agencies so that can inform the final funding plan for sure.
Well, that'll save me a lot of time, actually, because I've been taking
Yeah.
a lot of notes here, and I was wondering
Yeah.
if now, and that's why I asked that question, do I now have to take the time now because I'm more of
No,
a
you don't.
talking guy, as you may have figured out,
Yeah.
so I'm old. So, it's easier for me to talk. I pick up the phone instead of texting back and forth for 10 minutes. I can say it, well, I do talk long, but I mean, still. But you also have that personal connection. The last thing that I do have a question, comment is, I know this is going to be a word. This is a technology that has become the boogeyman. But there is a carbon reduction to nuclear. And, as much as the 3 Mile Island, event hit us like the Hindenburg blowing up went the way of the lighter than air, blimps, dirigibles. I lived through that 3 Mile Island thing, as well as Shoreham out on Long Island in New York. And, over the years, now they're finding that there's actually organisms that are eating, radioactive waste. In Chernobyl, for example, Jacques Cousteau talked about this organism years and years ago. I was a big Jacques Cousteau fan. So, there is coming online ways of basically, getting rid of radioactive waste, yellow cake, that doesn't require, a mountain, a mine or something like that where we're putting this in, or in the worst case scenario, taking it out on a barge and dumping it, which is, been recorded as well. So again, I just wanted to put that comment in as well, that with the overall look that we're looking at, I don't know, it's the boogeyman, sure. but you know how you know it's I just had to say it. I'm sorry I had to say it. So thanks for your time. This is the third time now that I've talked on your you know your
That's
webinars
okay. Thank
here.
you.
But
No, thank you so much for being,
I do
you know,
like
involved.
to keep my I do like to keep a grip on what's going on, especially I can take it back to my environmental committee, my township.
Yep.
You know, for example, on my, if you haven't figured it out, I'm politically involved as well. So
Yeah.
thank you again.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Richard. We appreciate our active citizens here in New Jersey. Alrighty. So Eric, let's try again. Let's see if you can unmute this time. You should just be able to click on your microphone icon. I'm going to feel really bad if it doesn't work this time. Seems like still no dice. All right. I'm sorry, Eric, but as you could always drop us a line at njregi.gov or via our comment form that's on our webpage. I do apologize that we're not able to hear you today. Next up, Sadiqa. Apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong. You should be able to unmute yourself.
You said it perfectly. Good afternoon, everybody.
Oh,
Thank you,
good.
Helene. Appreciate all the agency staff for the information session. It's been super helpful in understanding the ecosystem that's being built. I have a couple of comments. One of the things that triggered based on what's on the screen is bullet number 3. How should we measure the success of the projects, especially with decarbonization and grid being a dynamic system? There's a lot of work that is being done for granular tracking of energy production and the emissions associated with energy production, as small as 15-minute increment. So just curious about how that concept is going to be worked into how the decarbonization metrics are going to be tracked. And then additionally, is it possible to have dashboard or a public-facing information about what projects are funded and what their individual impacts are, instead of just the overall summarization of here's the amount of money that was spent, and here's the impact. Can we just do a platform where public can go into specifics as much as what could be divulged without going into competitive information from the companies who are doing it? Yeah. So that's one of the comments. The second comment is with respect to small businesses. So I'm part of a small business. We do engineering consulting as well as project development. And what we've found is for small businesses, it's harder to get state funding in New Jersey, based on my experience, because there are bigger incumbents that have already been doing this work for a long time. And so we don't get as much attention, but we are part of the ecosystem that works in the clean energy and the decarbonization ecosystem. So just curious how you guys view small businesses participating in some of these programs and getting the attention. They also need more attention. So, is there kind of like office hours that we can attend and see how we can fit into this really broadly defined multi-agency program? It is very overwhelming to figure it out. We don't have a lot of, resources to dedicate into this. But we have the skill set, right? So how do we work through this? Because this is really exciting and we want to be part of it. So if there are some ideas and processes that we can understand in the program requirements for small businesses and startups in New Jersey that could participate, that would be hugely impactful to companies like us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for those comments. Those are great. Starting at the top, I think you're potentially referring to like locational marginal emissions that are like nodal on the grid. At this point in time, that's not something that we at the department are able to track. They're interested in better understanding you know, how those emissions are being released, and that's definitely on our to-do list. So thank you for highlighting that. You know, it's definitely something we want to get to. In regards to the projects that are currently have been funded, we do have a dashboard, which my colleague dropped in the chat, and you can check out specific projects in your area. So there's a map and you can zoom in and there's point data. So you can actually click on the point in the map and see specific project outcomes and estimates of what the benefits are of those projects at that time. The dashboard also rolls up at the initiative level and the agency level. So you can sort of see the breadth of feedback across all of the programs. And then the last question about small businesses and emerging businesses and how can they sort of get in the forefront of this funding. This is a great question too. So right now the agencies are working on a new tool called the New Jersey One-Stop Shop that will allow businesses, residents, builders to be able to identify that they are eligible for by answering a series of simple questions. So hopefully that can alleviate and help sort of provide as an initial guide about what is viable and doable for small businesses. Here at our department, we also have lots of programs for small businesses, so I can connect you with those that can help with anything from just doing voluntary sustainable actions to assistance with compliance. So with that,
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate
No,
it.
thank you. All right, let me see if anybody else has a hand up. You know, give it a moment or two to see if anybody else would like to provide comment. All right. Eric, do you want to try to unmute yourself again, or I just want to make sure I give you an opportunity to provide your comment.
He had put some comments in the chat as well.
Okay, sorry, I just saw the last one that said hello. Okay. Looks like
So
Eric had some questions, or you want to hop in, Sean, and
yeah,
give a
sure. For
response?
the first one on NJ Cool about the avoided CO2 emissions. So that number is the on-site operating emissions for the buildings in terms of looking at that scope. But we are also tracking for the program overall grid impacts in terms of electricity demand and overall energy usage from both on-site and source emissions. And what we are seeing through the program is that we actually are seeing a reduction in electricity grid usage overall as well for most of these projects. And that's because we are encouraging those energy efficiency improvements and both on-site generation with making these transitions from on-site fossil fuel usage and high GWP replacement of refrigerant. So hear loud and clear that, you know, the benefits of this is more limited if we are just transitioning from on-site usage to putting that demand on the grid. And so that's why we're tackling all scales of the problem through the program. And we are seeing that play out with projected electricity consumption as well. And again, that's because these technologies are more efficient as well. So great question, and totally hear you on that. Part of it too is that's why we have Initiative 7 here, is to expand that clean energy generation and transition that grid over time. So tackling it from both ends, both on-site energy usage and source energy usage, to get that holistic treatment of the issue.
Thanks, Sean. And it looks like Eric had posed a question to John. I don't know, John, if you want to hop on and provide a response.
Yeah, to Eric's comment, New Jersey RGGI 975 million since 2020. You suggested taking these funds to subsidize electric rates for heat pumps, but if heat pumps are less expensive to operate, then why subsidy? Question mark. January, February 2025, cold means HP operate. That means, assuming heat pump, operate 2-to-1 COP and made them more expensive than gas or oil. And that was 22 cents per kilowatt hour. Now winter's 25.36 equals 31 cents per kilowatt hour. Subsidized electric rates for heat pumps. So there's a couple questions in there. Subsidizing the less expensive, they're less expensive to operate, they are more expensive to install. And then additionally, a number of cases, the cost is preventative for some people. So that's kind of the area that we're looking to subsidize. I think a number of us have talked about TENS, thermal energy networks, and additionally looking at ground source heat pumps, which are, I'm not an engineer, so I wouldn't be the best person to answer for that.
Okay. Alrighty.
Oh wait, did
Back-
Eric just type again?
Oh. Looks like he did. Looks like he's saying they are not less expensive, or they were not less expensive to operate in the winter of 2025. I guess maybe because the rates were higher. I don't know if, Eric, you have like a white paper or data backing up those numbers. This is the first time I'm seeing those numbers. That'd be helpful.
Oh, I guess Drew Tompkins.
Oh, yeah, sure. All right, Drew, would you like to unmute yourself?
Everybody knows that if you have your hand raised and the moderator has freed up your mute, you can then press the unmute button. Can you put a raise your hand or a clap? Is there a way to like do like a clap symbol or something?
So Drew, you should be able to click on the mic icon and unmute yourself to provide a comment.
Is there someone else that has a Danny? Danny, can you raise your hand? And can Danny be unmuted? And we'll just test this out real quick, if you don't mind.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
we can hear you.
Okay. I was able to unmute.
So, Danny, what did it look like for you to unmute? Did you just have to press the microphone next to your camera option?
So it goes from being kind of like a lighter grayscale to a little bit darker. And it's right next to the leave call button, but you click the microphone and then it unmutes you.
Okay, so both Drew and thank you, Danny, and Eric can both press. If you click on your microphone symbol next to your leave button, you should be able to speak.
Eric says trying to lower his hand.
Yeah, some of the settings may be related to how you're accessing the Teams meeting potentially. So if you're using the Teams app versus using like an online browser, you may have to allow Teams access to your microphone. Could have to do with the selection of your microphone inputs as well. So should be a drop down arrow next to the mic icon on the upper right of the screen that allows you to select the microphone you're using. as well as speakers you're hearing the noise from the meeting from. So other than that, if you've tried those things, Drew and Eric, I'm not sure how to troubleshoot the issue for the meeting right now. But as always, you can submit us comments in the chat or through the comment form or via email if there's comments you'd like to make that you weren't able to make today.
Oh, I also should mention another thing for Eric's comment about cost. Another prime example of people that we're looking to subsidize with the heat pumps would be people with delivered fuels, because that price fluctuates drastically. If that helps make more sense. So we even still have people in the state that have that operate on delivered cords of wood, which is pretty expensive source of fuel as well.
Thanks, John. Looks like Debbie has her hand up. Debbie, maybe you can try to unmute, provide a comment.
Hey team, thanks. I just want to let you know, I was just texting back and forth with Drew. He doesn't have access to the chat either. So that's why you're not seeing him be responsive. So I just wanted to reflect that and
thank you.
Make sure you knew he was trying. I don't know what he wanted to say though, so apologies. It does seem to work though.
Thank you. I know, like we're 5 years post-pandemic and we're still figuring out the technology. So we're trying our best. All right. Well, I know we have some more time left in this webinar, but if I don't see any other hands up, I think we can call it a day. As always, there are other ways to comment, so I'll draw your attention to our RGGI Engage webpage where we do have a comment form. You could also just email us directly at njreggie@dep.nj.gov. And this was the last webinar, so you could check out our old webinars if you're so interested. All of the previous webinars are now posted on our webpage. And with that, I'd just like to thank my agency partners for everything and for all of you for attending today. So thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your day.